In a few days' time, on 1st of July, Germany will take over the Council presidency from Croatia. And after Germany, Portugal and Slovenia will follow. And we'll take that very interesting point in time today to assess what the Croatian presidency has achieved during the last months and what we can expect, and also what the European Parliament expects from the German presidency to come. It is my pleasure to welcome our guests today because we can discuss these questions with 4 members of the European Parliament from both Germany and from Croatia. A very warm welcome to Katarina Bali, Vice President of the European Parliament from Germany. Welcome to Rainer Wieland, also Vice President of the Parliament from Germany. We also have as a guest today Mr. Tonino Pizzula, member of the European Parliament's Committee for Foreign Affairs and coordinator in that committee. Welcome, and also very warm welcome to Ms. Celiana Sofko, also member of the Committee for Foreign Affairs and vice coordinator in that committee. Let me also very briefly introduce myself. My name is Philipp Bauer. I work as a press officer in the European Parliament's liaison office in Germany, in Berlin. I will be your moderator today, together with my colleague Barbara Peranic from the Parliament's liaison office in Croatia, in Zagreb. And let me also welcome our heads of office here today. Ms. Violeta Stanicic, head of office of the European Parliament liaison office in Zagreb. Hello. And Georg Pfeiffer, head of the office in Berlin. If you wish to pose questions to them, please feel free to do so. They are also here at your disposal. So I would suggest that before we start, we take a brief look at some technical questions and at the agenda so that we know what we can expect from this meeting today. First of all, you all seem to be muted right now. If you are not, please do so. You see somewhere at the bottom of your screen a microphone symbol. Please make sure you are muted and only unmute yourself if you wish to take the floor. Otherwise, it's becoming quite noisy in here. Yes, and let's just take a look at the agenda. So we will start with the first round of opening statements by Mr. Pizzula and Ms. Sofko. Then we will have a first round of questions, and then we will continue with a second round of opening statements by Ms. Bali and Mr. Wieland, and continue with a second round of questions. If you do wish to take the floor, please just unmute yourself, maybe introduce yourself, pose the question, and maybe also tell us who you're posing the question to, and then mute yourself again, please. Or you can also just use the chat to take your question. We will send you an email around 30 minutes after the meeting with quotes from the MEPs that you can use for your reporting, and we will also include a link, a download link to the recording of this meeting. And also please keep in mind, if you wish to directly quote Ms. Bali or Mr. Wieland, just make sure to get in touch with them and briefly check. You will also find their contact details in the email afterwards. All right, so I think this is it. And I would just hand over to my colleague Barbara and to get things started and to start with actual content. Very warm welcome.
Thank you, Philip. Well, the motto that Croatia has chosen for its presidency is Strong Europe in the world of challenges. And did Croatia, for its part, meet the challenges of the presidency? We will ask Mr. Pizzula and Ms. Zovko. As my colleague said, they're both members of the Committee of Foreign Affairs in the European Parliament. They're also both members of the delegations for relations with Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kosovo. So they work together a lot. And this is a nice opportunity for them to share their thoughts on how has Croatia performed over the past 6 months. So floor to you, Mr. Pizzula. Could you tell us what do you think about Croatia's debut, so to say, on the presidency stage? which, by the way, coincided with the switch and the new cycle in the EU institutions, as we know, with the very late stage of Brexit. And also then came the COVID-19.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for organizing this event. I would like also to greet all colleagues attending this conference. Yeah, Croatia's presidency comes at a time of great changes of the European Union, the beginning of the new institutional and legislative cycle following the new multi-annual financial framework. Beside that, the challenges resulting from the United Kingdom withdrawal from the European Union, uneven economic development, climate change, increased migrations again, information, growing populism. Under the motto, as you said, a strong Europe in a world of challenges, Croatia identified 4 pillars structuring the priorities of its presidency. Europe that develops, Europe that connects, Europe that protects, and influential Europe. Taken together, these priorities fundamentally shape the vision of European Union acting for the benefit of its member states and citizens. The work of the Croatian presidency was originally focused on agreement on the new multi-annual financial framework, orderly withdrawal of the United Kingdom from the European Union, organizing European Union Western Balkan Summit in May, and preparing the conference on the future of Europe. But what was supposed to be first, the Croatian presidency of the Council of the European Union, has become the first virtual presidency in an indeed truly challenging world. Organization of the European Union Western Balkan Summit in May was a moderate success, followed by the green light for the accession negotiations with Macedonia and Albania, and the Zagreb Declaration. I'm, of course, pleased to say that the Croatian presidency followed suit on the proclaimed focus on the enlargement policy as both an European Union interest and our national interest, stabilizing our closest neighborhood. This was also confirmed by this week's unblocking of Montenegro, opening the remaining chapter of the negotiation process. As a rapporteur for Montenegro, I strongly support this decision. So far, the restatement of the importance of the cohesion fund as safeguard against the rising regional disparities is one of its most positive outcomes, which I wholeheartedly support. This, along with the European Green Deal and the Next Generation EU project funds, should help us avoid the societal meltdown of the EU experienced after 2008 recession, where austerity policies took a giant chip out of our proclaimed European solidarity and unity. To find this part of our conversation, I would like to say that success of any council presidency is not shown by the extent to which it has asserted national interest, but by cohesion and the united stance of the member states in the Council of the European Union. The presidency ultimate goal is therefore for 27 member states to work together to achieve the best results of the European Union and its citizens. And taking that in account, Croatian presidency was under tough pressure, and final results can't be judged by usual standards. It also means that some moves were done according its sense of political affiliations and the political profile of the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Picula. We had minor issues with the sound. Hopefully it will be better in afterwards, but we all understood clearly what you had to say for the beginning. And now we will move on to Ms. Zovko. Basically the same question. This time next week, Croatia will no longer preside over the council. what would you say were the main achievements of this presidency? Could you maybe identify some opportunities that were not used at most, or some things that should have been done differently, handled differently?
Right, thank you very much, and warm welcome to all the journalists that are following this press conference that is really in unexpected and unusual circumstances. My colleague Tonino has said basically everything good that we have achieved during this presidency in this unexpected and unbelievable circumstances for all Europeans. So Croatia has responded actively, has responded with great maturity as a country who went through the war, and we have a prime minister who was really, with calmness and a good balance, has managed to reconcile the south and north, and all this panic that we were facing in the beginning when EU rescue mechanism could not be triggered and activated immediately with Italy, and we were following the great disaster that was happening there with human consequences. So we cannot, if we are trying to summarize what one country could have achieved during its presidency, we could have said that Croatia was the best country to be at this position at this time because of the ability to adapt and the ability to react and to have a compassion and solidarity that it has shown. During the presidency, Prime Minister Plenković has not forgotten Southeast Europe and the Western Balkans. So 20 years after the Zagreb summit, and I'm so proud to say that Croatia has achieved its biggest goal, to bring back hope to Macedonia, Albania, but also to bring back hope to all the Western Balkan, where all these security issues are arising, because you cannot forget that we are a frontier country and we have the most responsibility to protect our borders. Croatia, as a frontier country, during the war 25 years ago, we have this year anniversary of Dayton Peace Agreement that brought a peace in Western Balkans. So we know what instability means. We were facing the big migration flows, big attacks on Greek borders. Plenković has gone there with the new president of the Commission, Madame Ursula von der Leyen, with the Prime Minister, with the President of the Council and the President of the Parliament, have sent strong messages that the attacks on the borders of European Union have to stop. So instrumentalization of the human misery that was being done by Turkey was stopped at that moment. So we were reacting on the crisis all this time during its presidency, and I'm proud to say that we are handling this torch of responsibility to Germany of how to manage the finances, because it was not easy to during the crisis and with managing all the funds that was being unused in order to help buy all this equipment, health equipment, and to help all the citizens of European Union to feel protected in this pandemic. It was not very easy as well to negotiate next multi-annual financial framework. So it will be a big responsibility on the German presidency to reconcile the wishes from the South and North, and I believe that it will happen. We are having this good compromise on the recovery fund for next generations, and I believe that Chancellor Merkel will succeed in combining the needs and desires and understanding of these frugal countries that are still hesitant to go along via with the future expectation of all the European citizens. So in 2008, we faced a big crisis where European Union has seen after the recovery coming of many populist parties. Now we have not allowed this the same crisis influence public opinion, and we have shown as well that security of all the citizens, it's at stake. It's our big responsibility that everybody has to have the same level of protection. And I think, in my opinion, this is the best achievement of the Croatian government during its presidency. And Croatia has shown that European Union can protect and can be compassionate, can share solidarity, and has brought back belief of European citizens to European Union. Because without European Union, without this safety net that we are having with European Union, we would all feel left alone. And this achievement I think would be the biggest achievement of Croatian presidency. Of course, we achieved through also European Parliament with the resolutions for this orderly Brexit, leaving of European Union, but it was not easy to negotiate during the crisis as well with the British government, and you are very much aware of all the difficulties that European Union is facing with these negotiations. And I'm afraid that this will be the greatest challenge also for a German presidency. So as far as we are concerned as Croat MEPs, I think we can say that we have done our best, and that European Union is giving this torch, of how we can say it, Olympic torch, to Germany to stabilize European Union in a time when we will need much more stronger messages on how to come out of this economic crisis that the whole world will be facing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zovko. It's just the right time for taking the first round of questions. If you have them, you can use chat as your tool. Please introduce yourself and the media you represent. Or alternatively, you can just switch on your mic and take the floor, because there are many of us. It's quite possible that we will miss a signal or two of people who are trying to take the floor. So please, if you have a question, or if you'd like to wait for the second round, that's perfect as well. So I don't think that there are some questions. No, I can't see anything now. So please, Filipa, I'm gonna hand over the baton, not the torch, to you now, and we can move on to the second part of this conference.
Yes, thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you, Mrs. Zovko and Mr. Pizzula. Now let us take a look in the future, in the near future. We are all aware that these are probably quite special times and challenging times. And some months ago, nobody would have foreseen something like that coming. And we have already heard that this poses quite a few big challenges also for the German presidency. And I would like to really directly hand over to Ms. Barley, probably, to sketch what she, or also what the European Parliament expects from the German presidency. Ms. Barley, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to see you all. And I'm very happy, especially to see Tonino Pizzula, who is my coordinator in AFET, via this medium. Well, yes, the expectations are extremely high towards the German presidency. A lot of things have already been said. Of course, the setting would already be difficult if there hadn't been the pandemia, given the multi-annual financial framework, given the Brexit. So there was already a lot of pressure on this presidency, and now, of course, with the COVID crisis, this has multiplied. I think that there are several levels on which this has to be regarded. One is tackling the loss of confidence in the European Union that has accompanied the COVID crisis. The other one is to strengthen the solidarity within the European Union. And I think the German-French proposal towards the recovery fund has laid a very good base for that. My recognition, I'm curious how Rainer Wieland sees this, my recognition is that there is really a feeling of relief and even maybe gratitude, because there were a lot of worries that Germany might react similarly to the financial crisis in a more protective, now this is my social democratic view, in a more egoistic way. But it has turned out that Germany has learned a lot from the experiences of the crisis, and that it takes its responsibility as a economically and financially strong country, as the biggest member state. I feel a very, very positive atmosphere that accompanies the beginning of the German presidency because of these proposals. So the expectations are enormous, and I think in some fields we have to see results. We don't have any choice, which is Brexit, which is the financing. I hope in some others that we will see results. I'm a lawyer by passion and profession, and I really hope that we will be very strongly committed to the rule of law when it comes to linking it to also the financial subsidies. We do have the proposal by the Commission that we are waiting to be precised. We already see that from the Council there are efforts to weaken this, and I think this will be one of the big challenges for the German presidency, to be really hard on this, because I strongly believe that if we lose the common basis that we have, which is made of values and our treaties, if we lose that, and we're about to lose it, then then we lose the fundament of everything. There is no sense in a common market or in cooperation in judicial or security matters if we don't have a separation of powers, an independent judiciary, free media in every country. So these are my hopes. These are also what I fear. But I'm sure that we have a lot of very competent people who will work on this, and we will support them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bali, for this brief overview. And I would like to hand over right to Mr. Wieland and ask him for his thoughts. Mr. Wieland, please.
Yes, hello, everybody. Thank you for the format, and let me start with the idea that if you look to the guiding principles of the German presidency, the upcoming, I think you can hardly find a better headline to demonstrate that not only Europe but also two presidencies should work hand in hand, because in some respects, or in a lot of respects, the German principles are just have a close link to the Croatian motto of the outgoing presidency. And in this context, I want to congratulate the Croatian friends for their presidency. And I want to mention not at least the high presence of the presidency in the parliament, with the limitations of the crisis. As a parliamentarian, I really highly appreciate that important gesture demonstrating mutual respects of the institution and demonstrating a strong commitment also to the parliament. Turning to the today's issue, I think, as the colleague Balle already mentioned it or indicated it, whoever might have prepared the German presidency, I think a lot of work which has been done between, let's say, last year's summer and January or February, a lot is not of a strong validity anymore, because the magnitude and the speed with which the crisis has changed the European agenda is almost without any example. And it is very important that some issues which are still important are not getting out of the focus over this effect we all can see, namely, but not solely, issues linked with the Green Deal or with the Brexit, which always was mentioned, and possibly the expectations to the German presidency is now even higher than it was 3 months before, and this requires also a sort of expectation management inside and outside the country, also inside Germany. I think all players, particularly the media, have to stress the very special role of a presidency. And since I have mentioned that the headlines of the two presidencies are very linked with each other, the change between Croatia and Germany cannot be greater. We change from a founder state and a large state to a relatively new state and a relatively small state. It has to be underlined that that the role of a presidency is very special. Of course, a country which sits and presides the council has a heavy duty to find and to seek compromises and bring also their pressure into the game. That at the end of the day, valid compromises are found. But nevertheless, even a country which sits in front has interests, and it has to be reflected that those interests also are served, reflected to the own population. And it is very difficult to fulfill both of these roles. And possibly for smaller countries, this is more easy to serve because smaller countries, if you look to Luxembourg, for example, they somehow had better conditions to deliver good presidencies because they are familiar with the role not to perceive themselves as too important. So, and we have a lot of counter-playing effects. If you possibly use the word solidarity, it is important. But solidarity always has to do with benefits and also have to do with obligations. And if you look to the financial and recovery issues, possibly different countries taking different positions. If you compare it with their positions concerning with refugees and solidarity there and the balance of benefit and obligations. In terms of the budget, the expectations also, or monetary questions, the expectations has also increased. I personally hope that the COVID crisis has also some effects which are not only negative. I think it will be a game changer on these monetary discussions, and I do not think that it is the brightest plan by some countries to say, well, let's do the financial framework first and then the recovery. I think those questions are interlinked, And I think we do not serve the challenge we see if we almost antiseptically try to part those things. The COVID crisis will and have to change the framework in which we are acting and how we are acting. So even the question of behaviors, we need pandemic plans all together, and we need more creative way to approach things, and even innovative, and therefore COVID possibly will deliver a blueprint. If you look to the pandemic plans, we need to have extremely necessary in the future, because if you see making mistakes, my country making mistakes and others, I think the first reflex is not always the best. We should move more together. And if me allow to mention the last idea, if we resolve all these not only budgetary things with the financial frameworks, but also the recovery, the idea that we have once a decision by the council and by the parliament, and then it is done on the old roads of comitology by the commission, I think this will not be something which delivers successful results. I think even the way down the road on these issues have to take on board the parliament as the citizens' chamber, and has to take on board the council. Either we resolve it together or we will fail.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wieland. I would now like to open the floor and take questions. We do have roughly 25 minutes time left. So please, probably the best way is to just unmute yourself and take the floor. Please briefly introduce yourself, and also tell us whom you want to answer your question.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Antonio Argenziano from Euractiv Italy. Very briefly, yesterday there have been a first agreement about one of the topics that had to be tackled during the Croatian presidency, and yet there's no agreement about it. And it's the conference on the future of Europe. So I would like to ask, what do you think will be the German government position about the conference? It will be possible to make it start during this semester, and also which is the position of you two as MEPs, given that the position emerged by the council is radically different from the position agreed in the European Parliament. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Let us take these two questions together and then do a first round of replies. Hello.
Can I ask question, please, or later?
Sure, you can ask it now, and we can then answer all together.
My name is Panagiotis Faelos from Greece, and I am from the Association of European Journalists. And I'd like to ask you a question towards the German presidency. What is going to happen with the migration, this new migration agreement that is prepared? That's my question for the German presidency. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, the questions appear to be directed to Ms. Bali and Mr. Wieland.
Yes. Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you. Maybe Ms. Bali, do you wish to start?
Yes, thank you very much for the questions. The Conference on the Future of Europe, I think there couldn't be a better time for it to be organized than now, because we see that also in the perception of the people, there are lots of questions that they have, and on the other hand, they they really want to be involved. So so my personal opinion is that we do need a conference on the future of Europe that actually does this, that actually involves people, that actually goes there, goes to the people, that asks ordinary citizens and not only selected ones, that has a wide range of questions that can be asked and not limited to that, for example, treaty changes must not be discussed. So the parliament's position is the most progressive one there, which of course has to do with, as Rainer Wieland said, our nature as being the people's voice in Europe. So we want here to have a strong voice of the people. We see that the Commission is on a good way, not quite as far as we are, and that the Council is very, very prudent, let's put it that way. And we had a discussion in the last plenary session where there was a lot of criticism towards the Council that during 6 months we didn't see any sort of mandate emitted by the Council. So I actually fear that the Council does not want a strong conference on the future of Europe, does not want to involve people the way that we do. And I see that the German presidency is more open than other countries. But my personal position is that if it's kind of a show presentation, if it's not really what we want it to be, then we should rather not do it at all. Because what people are really fed up with is pretending to hear them, pretending to listen, and we shouldn't do that. If we have the answers already fixed and we don't allow anyone to participate, anyone to ask freely, then we should rather not do it at all. This is my personal position and the one that we have in our political group. Concerning the migration, yes, of course, this for Germany is of high interest for the presidency, as you can imagine. My former colleague, as you know, I used to be Minister of Justice, and my former colleague now still is the Minister of Interior, Horst Seehofer, and we used to fight over this subject quite a lot. But he yesterday gave a press conference with his Austrian colleague saying that for him, the priority is to regulate the situation at the exterior borders of the European Union before tackling the question of distributing the refugees within the European Union. And there is a certain logic to that. So if the member states could agree on that, but we need both. I mean, you cannot only do the question of the outside borders and then not talk about the distribution of the refugees within the European Union. So if that is the way that Horst Seehofer wants to tackle that question, let's hope that he succeeds, because really migration is the issue where I'm a very strongly convinced European, but where the European Union up to now has failed.
Thank you, Ms. Ball. Mr. Wieland, to add to that?
Yes, I think colleague Bally has not said something which I have to correct. I more or less I'm the same opinion. With the last thing, but I'm sure that she has not meant that. On the refugee crisis, my statement is very clear. It is not a failure of the European Union, it's a failure of the member states. So this is a field we need more Europe, and we cannot leave the peripheral countries of the European Union alone. and we have to work on a certain form of solidarity in taking people seeking for asylum or protection of wars as refugees. So we should do both. We should organize our European borders. We need a level playing field of handling those with those people who arrive there, to make clear that we deliver protection where protection is necessary, but also we have to address the question of distribution. And if we see remaining resistance, I think the best way is to tackle that. Possibly talk also about the Europe of two different speeds, and possibly we find enough countries to build an avant-garde in handling inside those things. But if we do not organize Schengen at the borders, it will die in the middle. That is what we saw, and what we have to avoid. And same on the first question, the conference. I share the opinions of colleague Barley, almost 100%, and it's very clear that we must not give the perception that the citizen is like a dog barking to the wall. We have to take on board opinions and requests to take action. But on the other hand, I use the word expectation management. On the other hand, we must not give the impression or create the expectation that every message which arrives here in Brussels from citizens is brought into reality tomorrow. This also will not be possible, because not only the interest of a single person is important for the whole European Union, but the interest of several countries and a lot of people.
Mr. Wieland, I would just like to pay attention to Ms. Barley's statement in the chat that she completely agrees. It's a statement that it is a failure of the member states actually talking about here. And now we have received another question, this time in the chat by Konstantin Mravov from the National Radio. He doesn't have a microphone, so I will read it out here. Question: right now there is a huge problem with coronavirus spreading in German meat factories, mostly among workers from Eastern Europe. As far as you are familiar with this problem, do you think that it can provoke discussions during the German presidency on working conditions and economic migration in and hopefully beyond the COVID pandemic? And this question is again directed at Ms. Barley and Mr. Wieland.
Shall I take the floor again first? I wouldn't mind if we change but I can also start. I mean, we actually worked for a resolution on this, because and it was I can of course speak from my political group. It was very good to see that we had it was an initiative by the German and the Romanian group members who and also some trade unionists who put this very high on the agenda, because what we have seen is that Germany had closed the borders to some states, but then opened it for the workers, especially in agriculture, who we needed for harvesting the asparagus and the strawberries. So then, with all the restrictions that we had on the other hand hundreds of people from Romania who gathered in large groups and were together in a plane and together in rather small flats. And we also had a death of a Romanian worker who came to Germany on this way. So yes, we are very much concerned by this. The working conditions in the meat industry in the slaughter industry especially, they are not a new problem. We have been tackling that for a long time. And it's due to the virus now that it's become so much more obvious what is happening there. There is a lot of national law that we need to enforce or actually execute, because some things are happening there that are not legal anyway. But yes, I think it's also a European issue. We have come quite far with the Entsenderichtlinie, workers.
I think it's posting of workers.
Posting of workers directive, but the specific conditions in this industry are not being tackled by that. And I think, yes, we should work on that.
Thank you, Ms. Bali. Mr. Wieland?
Again, I cannot amend a lot. Of course, we should talk about working conditions, and this was highlighted by the crisis. But also, beyond the fields of working conditions in the old-fashioned manner, we also get lessons in a new fashion. Yesterday, I learned that that of course, if you have to cool down, and this is not only in slaughterhouses, it's also in the butcher. If you cool down air, from the ecological side, it does not make sense to put that air outside. It makes sense to reuse it. But now we learned that this is an ideal condition for the virus. So this is something we have not discussed at all. It has to do with working conditions, but not with the working conditions we discussed before. It's a new information we have, so we have to address that. Also, if you have people working close together, you have to bring filter technologies. These are all lessons we can take and we should take out of this crisis, because nobody can guarantee, and I think nobody wants to guarantee, that with the same virus we get a second wave, or we in 5 years time or 2 years time or 15 years time we get the next virus. And I think our society in all respects have to push up our awareness of appearances like that.
Thank you, Mr. Wieland. We do have time for some more questions. So please, everybody go ahead with whatever question you might wish to ask.
Is it okay that I take on the floor?
Of course, please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Teatrubic-Macan and I'm from Euractiv, Croatia. I have a question also for German MEPs. Before this whole pandemic, a very big focus on German presidency was supposed to be on the relationship between EU and China, and that was supposed to be the focus of that big conference that it was supposed to happen in Leipzig this September. How do you think this whole situation is going to affect on that former top priority of German presidency, and what do you expect from future relationship between EU and China? Thank you.
Thank you. So whoever wishes to take the floor, please do so. Ms. Bali, do you wish to start?
I don't. I thought it would be polite to let Rainer Wieland start for once, but I can start.
We can do it. We can do it either way, as you wish.
Yeah, as you wish. As you wish.
Don't worry. So I think if it's true, and I consider it true, that Europe should be a player with a global perspective, and that we should make more out of our potentials, then the questions how we interact with large regions, not only China, also the Americas and Russia, then we need dialogues like that. in a general manner, you have there the big questions, international, Außenhandel.
Foreign trade.
Foreign trade. Well, the international trade policy, world trade. I missed the word trade suddenly. The international trade. Then we have to look at for level playing fields. I think the idea to get back all things in terms of production to Europe will be not a sufficient position. There are a lot of things which are better produced elsewhere, but we have to stress the point that we need reliable chains of delivery, and we need a level playing field. Same with anti-bullying questions on the field of mergers and acquisitions, for example. We have the feeling that investors are having different opportunities in Europe from elsewhere, and they behave differently than European players are able and do act in other countries or in other regions. So those are issues we urgently have to address, because the future, for the peaceful future where Europe has its space and its rank and its role, is a future of mutual conditions where everybody is speaking out its interests very clearly, which sometimes has only to do with culture and not with a protectional policy. Everybody should know what and why is in the interest of the other side, and it should be outspoken, and then we should talk about it and make agreements which are as much as possible in mutual benefit.
Thank you. Ms. Barley.
Well, I think the situation towards China is very complex, because we see that China does have a different approach towards the rest of the world than it used to have 20 years ago. We see the new Silk Road strategy. We see towards the European Union the 17+1 format, which consists in, it's not only member states of the European Union, but there are some amongst them, which consists kind of in breaking out member states out of the consensus of the European Union in favor of Chinese positions, because these member states receive financial or somewhat economical infrastructural aid by China. We see the propaganda wars that China is leading in the COVID crisis also. We see the severe concerns about human rights, to mention the Uyghur peoples, for example. So the relationship towards China is really, really very complex. And to be very honest, I think for some subjects we have already missed the right time to act. I mean, China is already so much involved in Africa, for example, concerning Bodenschätze, concerning minerals, rare minerals for the production of digital devices, for example. So they are already so much. They have already such a powerful position that, of course, they have a position of blackmailing also in a lot of fields, and this is the card they're trying to play. So yes, we do need an economic strategy, but we also need one strategy that is that concerns the values. I talked about the values within the European Union before, but actually we are in a war of values. We have the US with where the market is everything. We have China where control is everything. We have Russia, which is a special case. And then we have the European Union. And I think there hasn't been a time where it was more obvious why we need the European Union, because it's about values, and we need to strengthen these. And I'm biased. This is my field of interest. I acknowledge that. But again, if we lose that, if countries like Hungary let themselves buy out by China, which they do at the moment, they do vote against all the others, even if there is no interest that they have, it's because China has an interest. Then this really destroys what we are and what we are there for. So I think the relationship to China is a field where it is being decided how good the European Union can be and if we have a future.
Thank
Bit
you,
dramatic, I'm sorry, but I think that's true.
Thank you very much. I'm taking a look at the time, and we are approaching already the end of this briefing, and Mr. Pizzula also has to leave us at that point for the next meeting.
Could I ask one follow-up question on the Hungary issue?
Sure, I think, yeah, if we do have time for maybe one final question, of course. At this point, Mr. Pizzula, if you have to leave in the next minutes, thank you very much at this point for joining us and for this opportunity. And yes, of course, let us do probably this one as a final question then.
Hi, I'm Verena Schmidt-Roschmann with the German Press Agency, and I just wanted to follow up on what Ms. Bali said just now about, if I understood that correctly, you said that Hungary lets itself be bought out by China, and I would like you to maybe expand a little bit on that. In what instances did that happen, and maybe you could just give a few examples. Thank you.
Ms. Bali, would you like to respond directly?
Yes, I would. Well, the ones that I have in mind are foreign policy issues. Maybe Tonino Pizzula could help me, because I'm a new member. So so it is when it comes to taking a European position towards foreign matters where China is involved. When it comes to, for example, condemning what they are doing towards their minorities, and in these respects, Hungary took the position or introduced the veto. So if you like, I will research the very concrete cases, but it was foreign policy issues.
Thank you. Yes, I would be interested in that. Thank you very much.
If I can contribute an idea, I mean, the sale out of a country is only a product on the very far end. It starts by dependencies in a smaller range. We heard behaviors where states were blackmailed and say, if you don't vote international in a certain manner, we stop collaboration with you. We saw, unfortunately, in the European Union, in the course of the pandemic, that ministers from member states, they went to the airport with cameras when an airplane from Russia or from China arrived. And they sat at their desk when aid from Europe came. So it's a question of general approach. And if you are in the situation that in your own member state you more likely ask for money at the doors of regions outside Europe, then you dare to put clear water in the glass of your citizens and talking about the situation of the country, then it starts to become dangerous. And I think this is it's the sweet poison of dependencies. And so we have to address that not only in the high end of those appearances.
Thank you, Mr. Wieland. Now I fear that we have closed this briefing at this point. Time is already up. I would like to thank you again very much for joining us today. Many thanks to Ms. Sofko, Ms. Bali, and Mr. Wieland for taking your time. Again, in about 30 minutes, you will receive an email by us with a download link to the recording of this meeting to rewatch if you wish to. And also with some quotes of the MEPs, if you do want to include them in your reporting. Also, again, please keep in mind if you wish to use something of which has been said by Ms. Bali or Mr. Wieland, just get in touch with their offices. The MEP's contact details are also included in our follow-up mail. Also, if you wish to pose further questions. So thank you very much for joining. Barbara, do you wish to say or add anything?
I will just say to have a very nice day, successful and fruitful, whatever you're going to work on. And thank you everyone for joining in. And we do hope that German presidency will be a successful one because it's in the interest of all of us.
All right, thank you very much. And our colleagues just pointed me to the fact that it might take a bit longer than 30 minutes for the video to be converted. So please, please bear with us if it is 40 minutes or something like that. Thanks again. Goodbye, everyone, and hopefully see you next time.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.